And also because I know how mean people get when like pictures of me surface on the internet. It's gotten to a point where I actually had the thought in my brain of what surgery and how much surgery do I have to get for people to finally stop calling me ugly on the internet.
But imagine you spend $250 million and you get some young girl and you don't kind of talk to her about like, hey, you know, don't get political. You're young. And I know you have opinions about things, but should be just about the...
Snow White was meant to be the role that solidified her as Hollywood royalty, the kind of movie that defines an entire career. But instead of becoming a fairy tale success, it turned into a full-blown controversy that nobody saw coming. What's wild is that the warning signs were always there, even from the very beginning. Walt Disney himself once made it clear, Snow White should never be remade. That was his golden rule. Yet decades later, the studio decided to break it anyway. And the reaction? Instant chaos. The backlash started before the film even hit theaters. The moment that trailer dropped, it was like the internet exploded with criticism. Viewers joked that not even watching it on a long flight would make it worth their time. Then came the question that spread like wildfire. Why was it so difficult to find someone who actually fit the character's original image? The debate over casting took on a life of its own. One viral comment even claimed the name Snow White.
I can't post a picture of myself on Twitter without a bunch of people telling me how ugly I am. That's hard. Simultaneously wishing people would stop.
Didn't make sense anymore. And that single remark kicked off a storm of arguments across social media. Petitions to shut down the remake gained massive traction, pulling in millions of dislikes and putting Disney in one of its toughest spots yet. Silence from the studio only made fans angrier, and every new update seemed to make things worse. When the company finally made changes, they were the wrong kind entirely. Beloved practical effects were swapped out for heavy CGI. Familiar characters were replaced with stiff, lifeless designs that reminded people more of unfinished video game models than beloved fairy tale icons. Even the forest, that magical, timeless setting, was fully digital. Fans couldn't help but ask, where did all that budget really go? Then came the music changes, and that's when fans really lost it.
To share a lot of myself with the world these days. I'm trying to be less active and check less and scroll less and read less, mostly because when I do look at things or read things on social media, it makes me upset. It makes me like a worse person, I think. It makes me, harbor a lot of feelings of guilt, doubt, anxiety.
Iconic songs, including the beloved Someday My Prince Will Come, were suddenly gone, and even the prince himself was erased from the story. Instead, audiences got a reworked character and a storyline that felt more like a public message than a magical fairy tale. By the time the credits rolled, the entire film played out like some kind of experiment, and the reaction from viewers was brutal. People weren't buying it. But shockingly, the movie wasn't even the main source of outrage. The lead actress was, and the issue wasn't her acting ability, it was her attitude. Many fans felt completely turned off by what they saw as arrogance that had followed her for years, long before the film ever hit theaters. Back in 2020, Rachel Zegler sparked major online backlash when she went after another actor publicly.
Also be having the greatest time and simultaneously wishing people would stop sending me death threats. When I tell you that it's hard, I just mean to be inside my brain. That's hard. And I'm there 24/7. I can't get out.
Calling him out with harsh words that later turned out to be based on claims proven untrue. When someone replied, asking her to get the facts straight before posting, Rachel fired back with a flippant comment. Better catch my mouth, 'cause she running. That one line stuck to her image like glue, and people never really forgot it. As time went on, she didn't seem interested in softening her tone. She openly dismissed the original Snow White, even calling the prince a stalker, and bragged that she deserved the role more than anyone else. What was meant to sound confident came off to many as self-centered, and fans started to turn away fast. She even laughed in interviews about her co-star's scenes possibly getting cut, which shocked people since she wasn't the director or producer.
To what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story just because we cast a guy in the movie. Right. Andrew Burnap, great dude. Yeah. all of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby.
That comment alone left fans wondering who exactly she thought she was. Ironically, her attitude became one of the biggest reasons people refused to buy tickets. What started as a few offhand remarks snowballed into a full-blown PR disaster that Disney couldn't contain. Things went from bad to worse when tension arose between cast members during promotion. One of her co-stars, who was openly supportive of Israel, appeared to clash with Rachel, and that disagreement spilled over into social media debates. Soon after, one of Rachel's online posts was linked to another actress receiving a wave of harassment, and it got so serious that private security had to get involved. That's when everything spiraled beyond control. From that point on, any remaining goodwill toward the movie evaporated. Even before it hit theaters, the internet had already decided. They weren't supporting it. Memes flooded social media, mocking Rachel nonstop. Comparisons popped up everywhere. Some even joked that her look resembled Edna Mode from The Incredibles.
A lot of people are very mean, so when I do public appearances like that, I'm very anxious. I had an anxiety attack. I can't post a picture of myself on Twitter without a bunch of people telling me how ugly I am.
What was supposed to be her fairy tale moment had turned into one of the most talked about Hollywood backfires in years. Once the backlash started, it never slowed down. On Reddit, users dissected every single screenshot, analyzing the movie frame by frame and turning stills into viral edits that flooded Twitter overnight. Hashtags like #NotMySnowWhite took off like wildfire, with fans roasting the casting choices and questioning how the evil queen could even be jealous this time around. Thousands joined in, stacking memes, jokes, and edits that spread faster by the hour. And just when things couldn't get worse, people discovered that the dwarfs in the film weren't real actors. They were computer-generated. Reports claimed this decision was made because Rachel Zegler is only 5'2", making her not much taller than the characters she shared the screen with. That explanation instantly backfired. Viewers online mocked the decision, joking that Lord Farquaad made a comeback and somehow came out looking more likable. Petitions demanding Rachel's removal from the movie started to circulate everywhere, with fans insisting that her ego had turned them off long before the premiere even happened. What started as criticism quickly spiraled into something darker: online obsession. People tracked her posts, spread rumors, and sent hate-filled messages nonstop, showing just how extreme online outrage can get once someone becomes the internet's target.
It's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White. She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can.
Rachel later revealed that the backlash didn't just stay on screens. It followed her into real life. She said that people had even shown up near her home, shouting insults and yelling outside her apartment. That raised a real question. Did she truly deserve all that hate? What kind of toll does constant public judgment take on someone mentally? Rachel admitted that it broke her down more than she ever imagined. At one point, she said she nearly quit social media completely because of how badly it affected her. The nonstop criticism pushed her into a deep sadness, and she even confessed that she started considering changing her appearance through surgery. Not because she wanted to, but because she felt the world was forcing her to. Over time, her posts slowed down and then nearly stopped altogether. She just wanted peace, for the noise, the chaos, the attacks to finally end. But peace never came. The situation pushed her to her breaking point. She opened up about the emotional weight of the hate, saying, "People have no sympathy. It's getting sick. I don't know how much more I can take. It's haunting me. I cry every day. I just want it all to stop." Those words showed how crushed she truly was, and how far the backlash had gone beyond criticism into something that clearly damaged her spirit. And yet, the internet didn't let up. In fact, things got worse when the movie finally premiered. The reported production budget sat at a massive $270 million, and when marketing costs were added in, the total soared to over $400 million. Expectations were sky high. This was supposed to be Disney's next big win, but what followed was the opposite.
I think I watched it once and then I never picked it up again. Like, I'm being so serious. I watched it once.
The opening weekend box office numbers came in way below projections, followed by a staggering drop in the second week. What was meant to be a modern fairy tale revival had turned into a cautionary tale, one that Hollywood is still talking about today. The movie needed close to $500 million just to break even, and it didn't even come close. What was once supposed to be Disney's next fairy tale masterpiece turned into one of the most talked about flops in recent history. The opening numbers were already low, but the second week, that's where it completely collapsed. The drop-off was brutal. Theaters went from half-full previews to almost empty rows overnight. Online, the reaction was relentless. TikTok, Twitter, and Reddit lit up with clips of deserted screenings. Some users posted videos showing entire theaters with fewer than 10 people scattered across the seats. Others caught staff sweeping popcorn before the credits even rolled because there was barely anyone left to serve. The energy was gone. The hype had evaporated, and even casual moviegoers seemed unaware it had been released at all. Reports started flooding in from theater employees across the country. Some said, "We didn't even realize it came out," while others admitted that several showings had single-digit attendance. For a film with a marketing budget estimated at over $130 million, that kind of turnout was devastating. What was supposed to be a global hit ended up as a quiet embarrassment that even fans of the brand struggled to defend. And then came the ratings. Cold, public proof of how far expectations had fallen. On IMDb, the scores dropped hard, landing far below what Disney had seen for any of its previous remakes. On Rotten Tomatoes, the audience score hovered painfully low, while critics gave it only slightly better reviews, often calling it soulless, flat, or confused about what it wanted to be. Social media users began comparing it to Cats and Morbius, the kind of titles that became jokes rather than legacies. So naturally, the question spread like wildfire. Who was really to blame for this disaster? That single question split the internet into factions. On one side were those who pointed the finger directly at Rachel Zegler, claiming she ruined the movie before it even premiered. On the other side were people saying that's not fair, that the collapse was much bigger than one actress. But the louder voices were the ones shouting her name. Suddenly, Rachel wasn't just an actress anymore. She became the face of failure for an entire billion-dollar company. Comment sections filled up with angry takes, sarcastic edits, and over-the-top memes. People acted like she had directed the movie, written the script, styled the visuals, approved the CGI, and personally told Disney to spend hundreds of millions on a remake nobody had asked for. It made for an easy headline, a simple villain to blame. But it wasn't the full story. Rachel didn't make the executive calls. She didn't decide to remove classic songs or change core parts of the storyline. She didn't choose to go heavy on CGI or alter the characters fans had loved for decades. Those choices came from far above her level, from the same boardrooms that have been struggling for years to balance legacy with modern messaging. But when things went wrong, those higher-ups stayed quiet. And that's where things got ugly. The Walt Disney Company, one of the most powerful names in entertainment, quietly shifted the narrative. In the blink of an eye, this went from being seen as a Disney misfire to Rachel Zegler's movie. The messaging changed in press coverage, online posts, and even fan discussions. It was no longer their flop. It was her flop. It was as if the entire corporate machine had stepped back, leaving her out in the open as the lightning rod for all the anger. For a young actress who was barely in her mid-20s, it was a level of public backlash that most people wouldn't survive emotionally. But from the outside, Disney's silence spoke volumes. The studio didn't defend her, didn't clarify decisions, didn't own the outcome. They let the narrative run wild. And run wild it did. Online trolls pushed things beyond criticism. Videos roasted her interviews. Threads picked apart every past post she had ever made. Memes exaggerated her facial expressions, her laugh, even her red carpet poses. It wasn't about the film anymore. It had turned into a personal takedown. Some of the harshest critics went as far as blaming her for destroying a legacy, ignoring the decades of creative hands involved in shaping that story. Producers and insiders tried to step in with half-hearted explanations, but that only made things worse. One family member connected to the production claimed Rachel brought personal politics into the promotion and that her public comments hurt the brand. While those statements were meant to defend the team, they ended up reinforcing the idea that she was the problem. But anyone looking deeper could see that the blame didn't make sense. A movie with that kind of budget doesn't sink because of one actor. It sinks because of years of decisions, over-design, over-correction, and a complete misunderstanding of what audiences actually want from a fairy tale remake. Ironically, as the outrage reached its peak, a small but growing wave of people began pushing back. Viewers started saying, okay, maybe we don't like her tone, maybe her comments rubbed people wrong, but this hate has gone too far. Others pointed out something simple that everyone seemed to have forgotten. Rachel is human. She's young. She's emotional. She's outspoken. And while her words may not always land right, she's still someone learning in public, under a spotlight few could handle. None of that justifies the personal attacks, the doxing, or the months of non-stop mockery that followed. Behind the scenes, those close to her say the backlash hit her hard. She had already admitted in earlier interviews that online negativity had affected her mental health before, but this time, It was relentless. The criticism wasn't just about acting choices anymore. It was about her character, her looks, even her identity. It was everything she said, every gesture she made, every headline she appeared in. At one point, she reportedly stopped attending certain public events. Her posts became infrequent. Photos disappeared. Friends mentioned that she spent more time offline, trying to protect what little peace she had left. What had started as a dream role turned into an emotional weight that few people could carry. And the irony? The same fans who once celebrated her casting as a breakthrough moment for inclusivity were now the ones tearing her apart online. The cycle was brutal. Praise, backlash, cancellation, repeat. Through it all, the studio's silence only made things worse. No official statement defending her. No acknowledgement that the creative direction wasn't hers to decide. Nothing. The optics were clear. They let her take the hit so the brand could stay clean. But to the public, it looked cowardly. Industry insiders began quietly discussing what they called the Snow White effect, a reminder of what happens when social media outrage meets poor corporate strategy. When a company tries to please everyone, it ends up pleasing no one. And when things fall apart, the easiest scapegoat becomes whoever's in front of the camera. In interviews months later, Rachel was noticeably more reserved. The spark that once came across as confidence was now replaced with cautious pauses. When asked about the backlash, she admitted that it changed how she viewed fame entirely. She said the internet had made her afraid to speak freely, afraid to joke, afraid to even share opinions without backlash. For fans who remembered her earlier charisma, that was heartbreaking to see. Because beneath all the noise, you could tell she didn't set out to fail. She wanted to bring something new to a timeless story. But the environment she stepped into was already charged with impossible expectations. The internet wanted perfection, and when it didn't get it, it punished her. Still, something interesting happened as the dust began to settle. New voices began speaking up in defense of her. Psychologists and creators started conversations about the impact of mass online shaming and how platforms amplify negativity. Even some of her harshest critics softened, saying they didn't agree with the movie or her attitude, but they also didn't wish her harm. It became a larger discussion about empathy, or rather, the lack of it. How audiences demand accountability but often forget compassion. How they cheer for redemption stories in fiction, but deny real people the chance to grow. Because at the end of the day, Rachel didn't steal money, hurt anyone, or commit crimes. She acted in a movie that didn't land. That's it. The rest was noise. And while the internet moved on to its next target, as it always does, the damage had already been done. A career that was supposed to soar had been weighed down by one film, one wave of hate, and one company that refused to stand behind its star when it mattered most. So now the big question remains. What happens next? Will Hollywood finally learn from this? Will studios stop using young actors as shields for corporate failures? Or will the cycle repeat with the next ambitious remake that misses the mark? Rachel's future is uncertain, but her experience has already become a lesson in modern fame. How fast love can turn to hate, and how silence from those in power can destroy someone's confidence faster than any critic ever could. The entire situation is bigger than one actress. It's a reflection of how our culture treats imperfection, how quickly the internet crowns heroes and villains, how little space is left for nuance or empathy in public discourse. Maybe that's the real fairy tale lesson here. Not about princes or evil queens, but about perception, compassion, and how fragile the spotlight really is. So what do you think? Did Disney handle this fairly, or did they throw Rachel under the bus when things went south? Was the backlash justified, or did it go way too far? Drop your thoughts below. I want to hear your take. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and comment. It really helps the channel grow. See you on the next one.